Pen and paper may be a thing of the past when getting work done, but consumers as well as enterprises do rely on technology, but that space is mired with a lot of minefields. So joining me to weigh in on the field as well as some of the policy surrounding it is Keith Krach of DocuSign. Keith, great to have you here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, thanks so much. Remy, thanks for having me back.
Well, of course, there's a lot of important things that are happening with DocuSign right now, but you've been spending a lot of time in Silicon Valley as well as in the Beltway. Right. And politics are a touchy subject right now, given the current administration and its policies, but we can't shy away from policy, especially in technology.
Right.
So if you could tell me a little bit about some of the trends and insights you're seeing right now.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we're seeing is how do you improve the productivity of our government, and particularly when it comes to what I affectionately call the war on paper, and how do we get everybody more productive. And there's certain things that are bipartisan, and paper is one of those things. But I think the dialogue that's going on now is very, very important in terms of engineers and more computer scientists and STEM education, retraining the workforce, all of that. They're all interlocked. So I'm actually very encouraged by the communication that's been happening between Silicon Valley and Washington.
And I'm glad you mentioned paper. Now, that is a very valuable resource, but at the same time, the digital transformation is happening across the globe. And one country that DocuSign has been in recently is Japan, and you inked a deal with a very important company named Shachihata. So they are the main provider of Hanko, and that is used to sign legal documents. But with that, you also inked that deal for eHanko. So tell us what that was all about.
Well, the first thing I think when you enter a country, you get one chance to make a first impression, and respect for the cultural norms and the traditions is immensely important. And as you said, the issue of the Hanko in Shachihata, and this is a tradition that goes back 3,000 years. This is a 92-year-old company. We did a partnership. So instead of doing the physical stamp or chop, now we have enabled the eHanko into the DocuSign digital transaction management platform. And the president of Shachihata just finished saying the eHanko is replacing the physical Hanko. It's now becoming the trusted standard in Japan for speed, security, and efficiency.
And Keith, you also mentioned security, so I do want to move on to security.
Yes.
Now, technology is very convenient, but at the same time, it is fraught with challenges. And of course, a lot of consumers out there are concerned about their information being out there in the World Wide Web. So given that there are criminal hackers who target companies that have very valuable information, and there have been recent phishing attacks as well, what is DocuSign doing to combat that problem?
Yes, and by the way, when you think about it, we deal with people's most important documents, right? And classically, all breaches begin with a physical breach, and so trust is everything. And I'll give you an example in Japan. NTT, their Advanced Technologies Division. Oh, this was several years ago. They had a breach, and it began because they had all the paper, all these faxes laying around, all of that. And they stepped up their efforts to digitize their entire operations. In the last 6 months, they've saved 60 tons of paper while making all their transactions, all their approvals, all their decisions, all their documents much more secure.
Okay, Keith, well, now that we've covered that, I'm sure a lot of our viewers also have this question in mind. Now, you have a multi-billion-dollar valuation, DocuSign that is, and because of that, there have been questions surrounding whether or not you'll go public anytime soon. And also, given that there's a new CEO at the helm, what do you plan to do in the near future?
Yeah, I get asked that question all the time. We haven't set a date for the IPO, but I can tell you that our business is extremely healthy. Now on the DocuSign Global Trust Network, we have over 300,000 companies that have standardized on us, over 200 million unique users in 188 countries, and we're putting 300,000 unique users on a day. That's up from 6 months ago when we talked before. That was about 150,000 a day.
And last but not least, before I let you go, Keith, I do want to get your take on technology. Now, in today's session, we're seeing the tech sector under pressure, and this does come after Google did get fined by EU regulators for their practices for $2.7 billion. Now, given what we're seeing in the tech space overall, what's on the horizon?
Well, you can't focus on the short term, obviously. I think you're just seeing the pace of innovation actually accelerate. And you're seeing all kinds of new companies coming out, particularly in the area that is accelerating digital transformation around the world and artificial intelligence. So I'm bullish as ever.
Okay, Keith. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Remy. I really appreciate it.